Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be talking you through step by step how I was able to create this piece of art that you see on the screen. And we're going to be starting right now. I started by creating my account 1920 by 1080 pixels and I brought in the foreground. In this case, it's going to be this image. And then I brought in as well the sky. And the next thing I possibly did was to blend this sky to the foreground by using the brush tool, just the way I'm doing here. And once I done that, I try to color balance and color match both the sky and the foreground together in the way that it's going to look nice. And once I done that, I brought in this cliff and I duplicated the layer just to add more depth to my design. Okay, and once I done that, I try to blend it to the foreground as well and color balance and color match the cliff to both the background and the sky. And as well, I brought in this rock just to add more depth to my background. I repeated the same process just by blending it to the foreground, and I also color balance and color match it to the element that are already present. And I brought in the first house. In this case, it's going to be this house right here. I mask it out and remove some of the whitish parts, and I try to place it in a way that is going to fit to the background. And I also color balance and color match it to every other element that are present. And as well, I brought in this second house right here. Also mask it out and remove some of the whitish parts that is not going to be needed using the layer property. And when I done that, I remove some of the parts and I try as well to blend it to the background. I also color balance and color match it to every other element that are already present on the background. And I went ahead to bring in this house again. I flipped it and try to place it in a way that is going to be organized with every other thing that are already present on the background. I also try to blend it to the foreground in the way that is going to look more realistic. I also went ahead to bring in this house. This was the fourth house, I guess, and I removed the whitish parts and using the brush tool as well, remove every other part that are not going to be needed, and also adjust every other element and try to balance and color match it to the foreground and to the background as well, just like I did with other houses. And then I went ahead to bring in this house, which is going to be the main element of our design. It's going to be the focal point. I mask it out using the quick selection tool, and as well I use the hard round brush to remove some parts that are not going to be needed as well. Once I've done that, I try to place it in a way that is going to fit to the background, and also adjust every other element that are already present just to see how it's going to come out, and also color balance and color match it to the background. And once I've done that, I try to take down some of the highlight and add some contrast to my composition, just the way I'm doing it here with the level adjustment layer. I also use the curve tool to remove some of the highlight as well. Once I've done that, I also try to add some shadows, okay, because the light is not going to be meeting these parts. Other houses are going to block the light that is going to be reflecting that part. So in that case, I add some shadows. And as well, I added some highlights to some of the parts that the moon is going to be reflecting on. And once I've done that, I try to add some light to the houses using the exposure adjustment layer, just the way I'm doing it like this. I went ahead and repeated the same thing in all the houses that are present on my composition. And I try to add some fog here just to add more misty to my composition using the brush tool. Okay, and then I brought in the warrior, the samurai. I already masked it out, and using the brush tool, I just try to correct some of the parts that was not selected properly, just the way I'm doing here. And then I also remove the whitish parts. Once I done that, I try to place it in a way that is going to fit to the background. To my own liking, there is no rules to doing this. And once I done that, I try to color balance and color match it to the background as well. And some of the parts were too bright, so I decided to add more shadows to the parts that the light is not going to be meeting. And I brought in these two flowers. I use blend if to remove some of the whitish part, and I duplicated the flower just to place it in a way that is going to make sense just for the culture and the tradition. And once I done that, I try to blend into the foreground to be as if the roots are inside the ground and just to make it more realistic. I also color balance and color match the flowers to my composition. I brought this lamp right here and I try to place it in a way that is going to fit. Once I done that, I try to add to the background as well and blend it to the background. And I add shadow to my warrior, to my samurai, just to make it more realistic. There are many ways you can create shadow, but this is one of my favorite way of doing it. And I also add filters, blue filter to remove the sharp edges. And the next thing I did was to make this light to pop up, and I used the pen tool in achieving these results just to add more reflection and more vibrance to the lamp. I also use the layer style to bring out the color in a way that is going to be reflecting on the foreground and on the background as well. Once I've done that, I use a solid color as well just to add more reflection of the same light to the foreground and to some part of the house and the flower, and even to some parts of the samurai. We're going to need some reflection of this light, so I also use solid color by inverting the color just to add some of the reflection of this light, just the way I'm doing here. And then I went ahead to the main focal point of the background. I went to add light to these windows. I'm still using pen tool. You can actually use any of the tool that you feel comfortable with. Okay, there's no rule that you must use the pen tool. If you find it too difficult, you can just use other tools. You're still going to achieve the same result. But me, I prefer the pen tool because it's more accurate. Okay, I'm still drawing the pathway that I'm going to use as the light on the window. I selected everything, and using the solid color as well, I choose my yellow. Just to have the light. And the next thing I did was to add the window light as well on this house that is in the background, just to add for light so that whenever viewers sees the design, they are not only going to be focused on what is present on the front, they're still going to look what we have on the background. And using the layer style, I try to add more reflection, more luminance to my light on the window. I repeated the same thing on the house on the background as well, just the way I'm doing here, just to make it pop up. And again, you can always follow your guide in doing this. And at this point, I still went ahead to add more reflection to my background because of this Windows light. And as well, I add some of the reflections of this light to the samurai just to make it more realistic. Still went ahead to add more reflection of this light to the foreground and to some parts of the house. Once I done that, I tried to use camera raw to make the color pop. Here you can always follow your guide. There is no rules in doing this. Just follow your eye and follow your guide, because everybody are going to come out with different results and everybody are going to be using different colors. So this is the color I prefer, and at the end we came up with something like this. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, subscribe to this channel and give me a thumbs up so that whenever I upload another video just like this, you will always be the first person to be notified. Having said this, I'm going to see you in the next video. Cheers. Peace out.